Immediately after Wednesday's Supreme Court hearing, Donald Trump completely panicked. He knew he was losing control. Within less than 2 hours, Trump launched a furious barrage on Truth Social, issuing direct threats against Lisa Cook and Jerome Powell, using the most extreme language he has ever employed. This may go down as the worst day of Trump's presidency. If you want to know what happens next, subscribe to this channel right now and turn on notifications, because the next 72 hours will determine whether Trump survives politically. What I'm about to say is something no one else is reporting. This has been confirmed through 3 independent sources inside the Senate Republican Conference. Trump is threatening criminal prosecution and imprisonment for anyone who opposes his attempt to control the Federal Reserve. This is a total collapse, a public crisis for Donald Trump. And the judges he himself appointed are now pressing directly on that wound. That is why Trump is threatening them. And all of this erupted immediately after this brutal Supreme Court hearing. Throughout the hearing, the justices followed judicial procedure. They asked questions grounded in facts and law. Justice Brett Kavanaugh, Trump's own pick, made clear that his ruling was not based on politics, personal beliefs, or Trump's candidacy. Kavanaugh pressed because the evidence shows Trump is deliberately violating the law, the very laws he swore an oath to uphold. In 2 separate jurisdictions, the Supreme Court reached the same conclusion based on Trump's conduct as laid out in the legal arguments before them. Instead of accepting constitutional limits on his authority, Trump engaged in a criminal conspiracy to overthrow the independence of the Federal Reserve and obstruct the lawful transfer of institutional control. After beginning his second term in January 2025, Trump illegally attempted to seize control of the Federal Reserve and repeatedly sought to obstruct justice to conceal his true motives. Extremely sensitive national economic security information was placed at risk in a ballroom and a bathroom. When I testified before the committee today, I made my position clear. I support Justice Kavanaugh's actions as a judge, including his questioning of Trump's conduct. Our investigation has developed evidence beyond any reasonable doubt that Trump is engaged in criminal activity. If asked whether I would block a former president based on the same facts presented today, I would do so regardless of whether that president was a Democrat or a Republican. No one in this country is above the law, and the law requires accountability. That is what I have done. To do otherwise would be to abandon my duty as a judge and as a public servant, and I have no intention of doing that. 10 a.m. Justice Brett Kavanaugh enters the hearing room and states flatly,
on that, your position that there's no judicial review, no process required, no remedy available, very low bar for cause that the president alone determines, I mean, that would weaken, if not shatter, the independence of the Federal Reserve that we just discussed.
We disagree with that.
The moment Kavanaugh finished speaking, Trump began to unravel. Kavanaugh made it unmistakably clear that Trump is breaking the law and doing so intentionally. He publicly demonstrated that Trump should never be allowed to control the Fed and should not be in this position at all. The American justice system is not applied equally, and men like Trump benefit most from that imbalance. What made the moment even worse was the reaction from Republicans in the room. They saw Trump losing control, his confusion, his deterioration, and yet they refused to invoke the 25th Amendment. They refused even to discuss it. Some stared down at their desks, pretending to read. Others turned away whenever Kavanaugh referenced Trump's mental state. Anyone could see what they were trying not to see. Just look at the photos from Davos, Trump's bruised hands, his vacant expression, his behavior, his speech. Everything points to a man in serious decline. And yet his own party insists everything is normal. If you were Jerome Powell, how would you feel facing Trump's threats? Tell me in the comments. What chilled me most is that Kavanaugh wasn't only talking about the past, he was warning about the present and the future. America has lived under a 2-tier justice system for a long time. Trump lied when he claimed the system targets him politically, but he didn't lie about the system existing. It does exist. He used money, delay tactics, and political threats to escape consequences that would crush an ordinary citizen. The same system that protected wealthy men around Epstein protected Trump. He is not a victim of that world. He is part of it. This is where Trump's language becomes even more dangerous. Legal experts warn that certain threats now cross the line established by the Supreme Court in Brandenburg v. Ohio, 1969. Under that ruling, speech that incites imminent unlawful action is not protected. Courts have already found Trump capable of inciting violence, including a 2016 ruling tied to his instruction to knock the crap out of him. His history and current rhetoric occupy the same dangerous territory. That is why so many former prosecutors and constitutional law professors on MSNBC and CNN are openly warning that this escalation could trigger another January 6th-style outbreak of violence. Kavanaugh warned that if we do not confront this now, people will be hurt and it will get worse. Trump is attempting to intimidate Supreme Court justices through power and threats. The justices will not be frightened. Trump continues anyway. On Truth Social, Trump wrote that crazy Brett Kavanaugh is being destroyed before Congress. He falsely claimed the investigation ended the moment Kavanaugh's past prosecutions were mentioned. He accused Kavanaugh of ruining lives under legal cover. He called him a raving lunatic who should never be allowed to practice law, claimed his license would be revoked, and much worse if he were a Republican, and demanded the Attorney General punish Kavanaugh and the witnesses involved. He declared the entire investigation a Democratic hoax and said there must be a big price to pay for what they have put our country through. Trump wants Kavanaugh, prosecutors, and witnesses to feel unsafe. He wants chaos to overwhelm the public so no one sees the simple truth. Trump broke the law and avoided consequences because the system protected him. Behind the scenes, Trump pressured Pam Bondi, calling her weak for not targeting his enemies. Now she echoes his language, calling for imprisonment and fabricated charges. But the real danger is Trump's violent rhetoric, saying Kavanaugh deserves a big price and hinting at consequences far worse than losing a license is a direct threat. He is publicly endangering Kavanaugh and encouraging his supporters to act. This comes just days after Trump stripped Secret Service protection from Lisa Cook and bragged about it. He has done the same to other former officials, putting their lives at risk. What happens if a Trump loyalist, say an off-duty ICE agent, decides to go after Brett Kavanaugh? Trump knows exactly what his words inspire. And as J.D. Vance has openly stated, Trump supporters believe they have total immunity to act on his behalf. They believe they can run wild without consequence. As long as violence serves Trump, he condones it, encourages it, and promises pardons for it. That is exactly what Trump wants. The claim that Kavanaugh's testimony proves political persecution is laughable. Congressman Ted Lieu dismantled that argument by contrasting Biden's restraint with Trump's weaponization of the DOJ. Kavanaugh also raised Epstein, and there is much more coming. So stay with me, because what comes next explains why Trump is desperate to bury this story and why those around him are terrified of what Kavanaugh just put on the record. The most astonishing part of this entire crisis is how Donald Trump openly confesses to the very abuse of power he accuses others of committing. He screams that Joe Biden has weaponized the Department of Justice, and in the same breath, in the same sentence, with those tiny fingers pounding Truth Social, he demands that his own Attorney General prosecute Brett Kavanaugh. He is exposing himself without even realizing it. He has done this before. In moments of cognitive decline, so severe that he failed to recognize his own admissions, Trump publicly pressured Jeff Sessions to shut down the Russia investigation and protect him. He demanded DOJ prosecute James Comey. He relied on Bill Barr to weaken the Mueller report and attack its findings. Now he is doing it again, pressuring his Attorney General to go after the man testifying about Trump's criminal conduct. Donald Trump tells us everything. He reveals the game. He says out loud that he wants DOJ to crush his enemies, intimidate prosecutors, and shield him from consequences. This is not normal. It has never been normal. No modern American president has ever so openly, brazenly, proudly weaponized the Department of Justice. Trump doesn't hide it. He celebrates it. If Joe Biden publicly ordered his Attorney General to prosecute a political opponent, Fox News would call it a coup. Republicans would scream dictatorship. But when Trump does it, they stay silent. because they know exactly what he is doing and they approve. So when people argue Democrats should stop talking about prosecuting Elon Musk, Pete Hegseth, or corrupt judges abusing their power, they miss the point. Trump is already doing exactly what they complain about and doing it publicly. That is why accountability matters. Let's be honest. Prosecution should happen. Pam Bondi, Pete Hegseth, Emil Bovee should be removed from the bench. There are others. Because Trump and his movement never intended to move on. They are locked in grievance and seek to use state power to settle personal scores. That is the project. And if this is not political prosecution, then what is it? A president ordering DOJ to imprison those investigating him? What do you call that in a democracy? America has been here before. We failed to rebuild democratic norms after the Civil War. We failed again after Trump's first term. If the United States does not repair what is broken now, a third failure will guarantee another Trump, not necessarily the same man, but the same disease, a leader who protects himself and the oligarchs around him. A leader who shields the Epstein class, the wealthy and connected, who believe the law does not apply to them. Congressman Ted Lieu exposed all of this during the hearing. Example after example showed how the Biden administration avoided politicizing DOJ while Trump openly demanded loyalty tests and prosecutions. Lieu's questioning stripped away Trump's excuses. It proved that every claim of political persecution is a lie designed to distract from what Trump actually did. Donald Trump is running out of places to hide, and that is why he is flooding the country with chaos. His team is filled with desperate people like himself, willing to ignite any distraction to pull attention away from the story he fears most. The Epstein case remains a black hole in American politics, not just because of the names involved, but because it represents a total failure of elite accountability. Every time Trump panics at the mention of Epstein, he tells the world exactly where his vulnerabilities are. What Trump is doing now is a textbook distraction cascade, a rapid-fire storm of controversy designed to overwhelm public attention. Media scholars have documented this pattern for years. When a political figure is cornered, they create noise until no one can hear the signal beneath it. He tried Greenland. He tried Hunter Biden. He tried Burisma. He even dragged in the FBI and Melania's underwear. None of it worked. And here is the tragedy. During his 2-hour press conference, not a single journalist asked one question about Epstein. Not one. That was not an accident. It was a systemic failure. American media still does not know how to confront powerful men when access is the price. If Trump buries the Epstein story again, the message is clear. The ultra-wealthy can erase accountability by manufacturing enough chaos. That precedent is more dangerous than any headline today. Analysts have tracked this for years. Mentions of Epstein spike across platforms every time Trump suffers a legal setback. The pattern is measurable. It shows Trump fears this subject more than any indictment. That is why citizens must stay focused. If we allow Trump to bury Epstein again, we prove public memory is manipulable. Democracy cannot survive selective amnesia. And power never disappears when leaders fall. It transfers. If Trump is not held accountable, that power passes to someone even more skilled and even less restrained. If you want more analysis that cuts through the noise and focuses on the systems behind it, hit subscribe. And if you made it this far, drop a green heart in the comments. See you next time.